Okay, I'd like to call this Physical Services Committee meeting to order. First item on the agenda, a report from the Cobden Wastewater Treatment Plant Upgrade Status Report. A mover? Moved by Councillor Mackay, seconder. Nobody going to second? Councillor Miller, Reeve Miller. And I'll turn it over to Robert.
The Fiscal Services Committee recommend Council Township of Whitewater Region accept the status report prepared by JP2G Consultants Inc. for the Cobden Wastewater Treatment Plant upgrade. And I believe Jan just has a quick verbal update on the Port Carling visit.
Yes, I'm not going to get into the status report from JP2G. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. What I did want to note in addition was staff visit with them. Most of their report is related to the Port Carling visit. Again, some information that's been out in the community. So what I do want to note is that the Port Carling plant is very similar to what we're going to construct in Cobden, a membrane plant system. They do have more property, however, physically we're extremely limited, but the building and everything will be very similar. At this time, our system will actually be able to manage greater daily and peak flows than the Port Carling plant. Although similar in size, it was noted that Port Carling came in at quite an extensive price, greater price. We did speak with the Port Carling manager at that time, and he did indicate that some increases were due to error. They had some roofing issues they had to increase, but most significant costs were they did a major upgrade on a pumping station that we do not have and do not require, and as well they put in a septage receiving station. So we're not putting that in as well. So that makes a difference. In our discussions with him, he felt that it's really not quite a Schedule C cost, is a very reasonable cost at this point. Right now, we're undertaking our environmental assessment study. Following approval of that, what we're going to do is tender a design-build project. One of the questions has been asked is why we don't have a Class A estimate. We will not get a Class A estimate under this method. You don't have a Class A estimate when you're doing your environmental assessment, because you don't receive that until you get your detailed design. You can't do your detailed design until such time as your estimate is complete, your environmental assessment is complete and approved. So at that time when it's approved, there's a couple of different methods of doing it. You can just have a firm do a detailed design and they can put Class A schedule costs with it. In the case we've chosen to go is that it's a design build. So when it's tendered out, whoever gets that contract, it will be an all-encompassing project. So the costs are the costs within that project. So our estimates upon completion and tendering would likely be a Schedule B at that stage till the tenders come in. So I just wanted everyone to understand the difference in that. You can't get your Class A out of your environmental study unless you've done your detailed design, of which means it hasn't been approved as of yet anyway. So just wanted to clarify some of that information. And that would be everything.
Any questions or discussion? If not, I will call on a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Second item on the report is the aggregate pit at Zine Hill.
That the Physical Services Committee recommend Council of Township of Whitewater Region declare the Amos Road Whitewater, I believe that's how you say that, Whitewater Region aggregate pit surplus and direct staff to proceed with the sale of the property to the legal owners of the Wesleyan Church of Canada at Zine Hill Campground.
I need a mover. Moved by Councillor Mackay, second by Mayor Johnson. And maybe I'll ask Janet to alleviate on this. I'm glad to see this is coming forward.
Okay, the first piece of information I account for is about 2012. when an initial letter was offered to the township requesting use of the pit. Council passed a resolution that we would look into this work in 2016 when the issue came forward again. In the interim, the camp was looking at purchasing both the township's portion and MTO's portion. So obviously I've just come here in 2017 and started this project this summer. So in August, I did speak with John Adams, the property supervisor with MTO. Their pit, they are aware of it. He's not concerned at this time, or did not appear to be, with regards to access to it. We have had a property search done, and there does not appear to be any legal access, although they may have private agreements with other methods of getting there. There's another pit a little farther along, etc. It is in under their records under an Algonquin land claim area, and I believe that's got to do with size, minimum size, and anything owned by the Crown. So it's a little bit different than the land claim area that's on presently. Basically, he indicated that it's a staffing issue at this point, and to go through the process could be up to 18 months, and they just don't have, for this 1 acre piece of property, the value to them as a priority is not there. So what we did do in order to clarify that it was basically a clean piece of property in our name was have a title search. If you look at page 92, which she's just scrolling up, you can actually see the properties. So you can see the Zion Hill Camp. You can see the Whitewater Aggregate Pit in front of it, and that's what we're looking at. And then you have the Ministry of Transportation pit in behind. They're not large pieces of property. Ours is 0.58, theirs is 1. The boundary between those pits and the camp, and obviously these are older, I'll call them a historical pits, there wasn't the same requirements for setbacks and for rehabilitation following aggregate removal. So they are very steep. They could be presented as a liability from a health and safety perspective. What staff are looking at, we don't have a formal policy, but we are looking, and we have commenced work on one for the disposal of some of our properties. So staff are indicating that if they wish to proceed with the sale, that we contact an agency to get the cost of an estimate for that property, that the applicant agree to pay the costs, all the costs associated with that. So there's land transfer fees, potentially survey fees, we may or may not need them, etc. And that we have to declare the property surplus, obtain the 1 market value, and we have to give notice to the public that it's been declared or it's being proposed for sale through an advertisement. So staff are saying, yes, from a public works perspective, we do not have an issue with disposing of the property. There is probably very limited value to it because of the condition. It would be extremely difficult to take further aggregate out of it because of the side slopes and the new setback parameters. So I would recommend, if we wish to dispose of it, we follow that process. The next steps, again, are if council does proceed and recommend we sell it, we contact the camp, get something informal that yes, they wish to and they agree that they will pay these costs, and then we would follow the process that I have laid out. If council chooses not to sell the property, would inform the camp that we wish to retain it.
Any comments? I have one, Janet. I think, and does anybody remember the abandoned dump landfill that we sold to the gentleman in Westmeath? Yeah. Okay. What was does anybody remember the procedure? Because that didn't go out to tender. Or I think it just went directly, if I remember right. It's something, Janet, maybe you could look, because all I'm doing is thinking that if we put it out to public tender.
I'm not recommending it go to public tender.
Okay, so.
But I am recommending notice go in of the proposed sale.
Okay.
In the newspaper.
Yeah.
And we
Well-
wouldn't, and we, if I can add, we wouldn't get a formal appraisal, we would just get an estimate of the value of the property from a local real estate agent, which would lower the costs. And as Janet has said, we don't anticipate that the property has great value. So this just ensures that it is a process, but not through public tender. We would deal specifically with the campground.
Okay, and that's following, yes, Councillor McKay.
I was just gonna say that was, Mr. Jerva, and it was LaPosse, wasn't it?
It was,
Former Westmeath Township, but.
it was out in Westmeath Township. I remember the issue, and the main issue was that we didn't want to put it out to the public in case somebody else came in with a higher bid, and then now we're into, so that, as long as that process is being followed, then I have no problems with the process. And thank you, Janet. That's been a long time and some quick legwork done. I got you on the job, and within 4 months it was complete. And I think it's Mr. Hewitt. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Janet. No, I guess we need to take a vote on this. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried, and thank you. Next on the agenda is a report from Jura Trail.
The Physical Services Committee recommend council the Township of Whitewater Region deny the request to assume Gervais Road into the Township Road Network at this time.
And I think I'll call on Janet to, yes, I do. I would like a mover. Moved by Councillor Rager, seconded by Councillor McKay. And now I'll move it over to Janet.
We received a request in May of this year to assume Gervais Road. I believe the request has been made on other occasions. For information purposes, I recommend we go to the next page and I can give you a bit more of a description. So what we have on this map is a number of different colored portions. If you note Gervais Road, the red line, Gervais actually by name continues right from Rapid Road to the far end. The blue section is Gervais Road. That's a road allowance that has been deeded to the township. All of this is private at this time as far as maintenance goes. The pink section is Sinkhole Trail. It was actually registered in 1975 as on a plan of subdivision, and it was called Cedar Street at that time. As you can see, the first portion of pink is really what we call Gervais Road and has been registered under civic addressing accordingly. The green portion at the end is still in the Gervais name, and it is still Gervais Road. They're actually asking for the road to be taken over for the blue portion and the first pink portion. You can see where I have the limit of request. They're not requesting Sinkhole Trail, and they're not requesting the green portion that's still private property. So now what I'm going to get into is underneath this drawing, what I do have is our actual recommendation and why we're indicating not to assume it at this time. I'm not saying we never want to, but we have received a number of property requests for all varied reasons, and we'll see a number of them come through today. So what staff is recommending is that we develop, some of these policies are in place, we want to update them or make them a little more Whitewater Region friendly, if I can use that term. So we would like to develop a private road policy, so that's when we would consider taking it over, under what conditions we would take it over, and how the process would go. We want to look at a road assumption policy, and again, that's what roads we would assume, and that would probably be more related to, would tie into the standards, which is the next section. So we want to look at our minimum road standard specifications. And we would probably have 2 or 3 specs in there. So we might indicate a private road, that the intent is of the developer to remain as a private road. We still have to have considerations for emergency vehicle access. We would have a road that if they wish to develop a road and continue to upgrade it, at what time would a road meet our specifications that we would be willing to take it over? So those are some things we really need to question ourselves, is what standard we want to have, maintain, and or take over. Because not all our roads may meet a certain standard, and you may have several standards available to you based on traffic counts, based on surface requirements. So the last item that we want to do, and we're working at, is we want to consolidate a bylaw of all the roads that have been assumed. So we have 4 municipalities. Some roads have been assumed formally, some have not. And as an example, if we have a road out now that we're maintaining 200 feet of, we may be required to assume it. It may already be ours, but we would want to literally dictate those distances approximately so that we can understand what we're in charge of, what we must maintain, and that's not just winter maintenance, it's year-round maintenance. So we need to clarify this. Just because a road is on a deeded access to us or a deeded road allowance doesn't necessarily, until we assume it, we're not legally responsible for it. However, if we plow it and there's an accident, we could be held responsible for the accident based on plowing, not on assumption and ownership. So there's a lot of varied things that we really need to look into. So I'm recommending that we don't adopt or assume these types of roads until such time as this winter we can get into some of these policies and get our own records straight. Again, 4 municipalities amalgamated, a lot of them are historical. Let's bring them together and have a good look. So our next step is trusting that Council agrees with the recommendation not to assume it at this time. A formal letter will be sent accordingly.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is a report on Sinkhole Trail.
The Physical Services Committee recommend Council of the Township of Whitewater Region deny the request to purchase a portion of the road allowance known as Sinkhole Trail, aka Cedar Street.
Mover? Moved by Councillor Mackay, second by Councillor Regier. And now maybe I'll turn it back over to Janet, who can update us.
Okay, obviously this one's following Gervais because it's extremely close to it. Little bit different issue here. The residents of 8 Sinkhole, one of the neighbors have relocated their 911 number. We've put it back. You can tell when you're out there physically in the roadway, you're not exactly sure where the road allowance is. As you can see on the picture, it is a little obscure there, and that's what allows them to have their frontage. So there was consideration to purchase that little V, I'll call it. The catch to that is that also restricts the other neighbors with regards to where they want their access and not have access, formal access. We did have this one looked at by our lawyer as well, and they recommended we not sell any portions of road allowances. You start to cut them up and chop them up. Again, this goes back to similar situation to the others of determining what we own and what's private, etc. What staff are recommending is that we reply to the requester that we not sell a portion of the road, but as well we indicate a letter to the neighbor that this is on township property. They're actually using that portion of the right-of-way now. They've placed some materials, some gravel and other materials there, which is inhibiting access to the Sinkhole Trail. So we're hoping to be able to do it with some letters.
Any other comments? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Next on the agenda is a report on Chaffee Trail.
The Physical Services Committee recommend Council of Township of Whitewater Region direct staff not to provide at this time winter maintenance on Chaffee's Trail beyond the existing limits of service provided by the township.
And once again, I'll turn it back over to Janet.
I'm inundating with, property issues tonight, sorry.
I'm sorry, I should get a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor McCaw, second by Reeve Miller. And Janet, now I'll turn it over.
Okay. Another request to maintain a portion of the road. As you can see here, this is Chaffee's Trail. We come in, and I do believe I had the distance. I can't place it at the moment here, but we come into this general mailbox. You can see where the trail changes significantly looking straight ahead. We plow the material to the right into the ditch line, reverse, and come out the road. The request has been made to go from, you can see the grass portion of the trail on down to the end. It obviously is very limited, extremely difficult for a tandem vehicle to get in. This is a township road allowance. However, the road has never been assumed. What I do want to make note of is prior to 2003, if you were maintaining a road, there could be assumed, bad word, that the municipality has assumed the road, and we could be held for maintenance of it, which would be both winter and summer. Again, going back to our assumption bylaw that we need to clarify some of these issues. So a couple of items. What staff have recommended at this point, until we can clarify, is plowing in as we are now, providing a letter to the requester saying we haven't assumed it, we're not going to. Our other option is to inform all the residents that we are not going to take it over. It is a private road, hasn't been assumed, and stop, although I don't know that that's not staff's recommendation. The third item, that if we are going to continue to maintain to that, the resident at the very first of the road maintains, they keep on the road allowance trailers, or there may be a sea can there, a number of other items. So that makes it very difficult for plowing and snow storage. So we would write to them indicating if we're continuing with winter maintenance, that must be removed from that road allowance.
Mayor Johnson.
Yeah, we have actually done some upgrades in the past to that driveway. But if you were down, you've obviously gone down there, like, it's difficult enough to take a car ahead down, and there's no place to turn the truck, and it's very much against the whole safety of a driver to be turning there in the wintertime in the dark. So I think your recommended is very well founded.
Any other comments? If not, I'll take a vote on it. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Next thing I have is a report on Union Cemetery Road allowance. And I need a mover. Moved by Councillor Mackay, second by Councillor Rayer. And Robert?
The Fiscal Services Committee recommend Council of the Township of Whitewater Region direct staff to offer for sale those portions of Union Cemetery Road abutting the property located at 16453 Highway 17, Country Kitchen Pizzeria, and 16463 Highway 17, and complete negotiations only if both parties agree to the purchase of those portions of Union Cemetery Road fronting their property, with the respective property owners to pay costs, which includes but not limited to legal, registration, survey, and advertisement, etc.
And now, can I move it over to Janet? Okay.
Yes, we've been requested to sell Section 2. It's broken up in this manner on the sketch to the Country Kitchen Pizzeria. Twofold, they do park, and as you can see on this picture, there's a car and a transport in the middle of our road allowance. Not good. It is our road plowing area, but when you're visually out there, it looks like a parking lot. We could try and sign and or paint to change that. But what staff's recommending is if we wish to sell Section 2, which really does not have a benefit necessarily to the township, we only do it if we're also going to sell Section 1. And reasons for that is we have to bring the entrance in from 17, we have to make that turn, we have to dump the snow off to provide access to the second owner. If we're going to do that, we're easier to plow the entire area and maintain it on our own accord. The only section, if both owners wish to do it, owner 1 has not requested it. If council wishes to proceed and offer for sale, staff will contact both the owner of property 1 and 2 and see if they both have an interest. If not, staff is recommending not to proceed. The only section we would retain is Section 3. So we would come in off the highway and plow up, and that's the access to the actual cemetery. So that would be staff's recommendation. If there's not going to be a sale and council wishes not to, we would just send a letter to the requester. I don't know that they will proceed at this point or not, and or if the other party has any interest.
Any discussion, Reeve Miller?
Currently, you said we'll do the snow removal to get into the cemetery, Section 3. We're not currently doing Section 2 snow removal, are we? We are.
It's our road allowance, so we do Section 1, 2, and 3 as a whole.
Oh, that's been a heck of a deal for them.
Well, yes. And I don't know that it's any different. I mean,
Yeah.
technically, you're allowed to park on the edge of a roadway, of a right-of-way for parking anyway. It's just visually, it's very difficult there to tell what's parking lot and what's ours. But, yes, they have requested to purchase that. So, again, there isn't a large benefit to us, but I think it would have a negative impact without selling both.
Mayor Johnson?
I personally would like to get rid of it. So, if there's a way we can do that, because I think we can probably negotiate with MTO, which would probably take about 10 years, but we could have a better entrance off to Lot 3, the one at the other end. Lot 1 right now is still owned by us most of the way in, and it's used as a tractor-trailer parking lot that people store there over the weekend. And really, it's an area that has a lot of liabilities for us. I always felt in the removal in the summer, and somebody hits another car sitting there in the parking lot, that's ours, and so on and so forth. No, I really think we would benefit from getting rid of it. Plus, we'd get money for it. Would help.
Any other comments? I just have one, because I got a complaint last year about all the snow that was piled on our road allowance there by the neighbor. So this would solve it all. Really, I think much like the mayor, I think it would be a double win if we could. I'm not even looking to get a whole lot of money for it, if we could just tidy it up, and as long as we would still have entrance on the other side. That's my main concern. Any other comments? If not, Councillor Olmsted.
Sorry, just a question on the last page. I'm seeing financial implications. And under the no sale, it states, if directed, staff will inform Mr. Al-Saidi that his request has been denied. So has he contacted us requesting us to proceed with?
This is the gentleman that made the request to purchase the property. So what I'm saying is, if council wishes not to, then I'll just inform him, and that's the end of the project. If you wish to proceed, just the section above it is the sale. So
Gotcha.
we just don't have a lot of financial implications, and we would request they pick them up. But
Okay, I would assume as a business owner that the present situation would impede any possible sale of a business. So I know this business was for sale years ago, that I think that would be a big, yeah, so that would be a big issue for somebody coming to look at a business if they didn't have the proper right of way.
Reeve Miller.
Yeah, in view of all that, I would support what the mayor has suggested, and yourself and Chris, is, I would start making a plan to find out how to do it and get it done. And because that could facilitate a whole new enterprise there in the near, like, once it's settled, as Chris pointed out. That would be the way I would go.
Okay, I think, any other comments? If not, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Yep. Okay, a report on truck 16 to LFS surplus, truck 10.
The Fiscal Services Committee recommend Council Township of Whitewater Region direct staff to relocate truck number 16, which is an International 2654, from roads to waste management upon receipt of a replacement truck. Declare truck number 10, the Ford L8000, surplus, and direct staff to proceed with disposal of truck number 10 in accordance with corporate policy.
I need a mover. Mayor Johnson, second by Councillor Mackay. Discussion, or Janet, would you like to,
Sure.
go ahead?
Truck 10 is getting in poor shape. It's been at the landfill for a while, and we've actually stolen several parts off it to keep other trucks running, in particular equipment to manage the wing, etc. So I did ask the mechanic to have a quick look through his records and at the vehicles, and truck 16 is in much better shape. So what we'd like to do, the new truck, that's why I brought it up earlier today, should be received in, we anticipate, November. So when we receive it and get it up and running, we would take truck 16, dispose of it from roads, enter it into waste management, and then we'll declare truck 10 surplus, and we'll look at disposing of it. It just upgrades that vehicle at the landfill site and minimizes future costs potentially just by virtue of the age.
Any discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. I think at that point, that will complete the Fiscal Services Committee meeting. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, everyone.
All right, we're moving on to bylaws. 8.1. Can I get a mover? Moved by Dave Mackay, second by Kathy Regier.
Be it resolved that bylaw 1710-1002 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a lease with Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Canada, represented by the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans, for the continued use of government wharves and launching ramps at La Paz and Westmeath be taken as read and passed.
Any comments? All those in favor? Carried. 8.2, appointment of certain officials.
Be resolved that bylaw 1710-1003 being a bylaw to appoint fencers, livestock valuers, fire wardens, and pound keepers for the Corporation of the Township of Whitewater Region be taken as read and passed.
Can I get a mover? Moved by Chris Olmsted and second by Kathy Regier. All those in favor? Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. 8.3.
Be it resolved that bylaw 1710-1004 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 1989-14 of the former corporation of the Village of Cobden as amended, Melvin Colesmith, Morton Street, be taken as read and passed.
Moved by Reeve Miller, seconded by Councillor Mackay, sorry. Any questions? Yes.
A note, when Connie had mentioned that she had not received, or we had not received the letter, any idea what could have happened there, Rob, or why they weren't informed?
I think it was likely because the concerns she had raised had been fixed by extending the actual lot, and because there was a consent, like there was a severance, whether or not those comments came as part of the severance application versus the zoning. So thankfully she came and is in agreement with where the proposal is, but because of those two steps in the process and the fact that they actually amended the process and amended the size of the parking to address her concerns, probably in the scope of that process. But we will make sure that any comments that we do get are reflected, but I believe because of that process is likely where maybe some lines have been crossed, but her comments are noted and I understand that she's in agreement with the proposal now.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Carried. Resolutions, severance application.
The Council of the Township of Whitewater Region supports severance application B7817, 2768C Grant Settlement Road with the following comment: a registered plan of survey is required.
Moved by Darryl McLaughlin, Councillor McLaughlin, seconded by Councillor Mackay. Any questions? No questions. All those in favor? Carried.
The Council of the Township of Whitewater Region directs staff to, in keeping with historical arrangements of the Beachburg Recreation Association inherited by the Township, continue to allow Paul's Pro Shop to provide mobile skate sharpening on Township property at the Beachburg Arena for the remainder of the 2017-2018 ice season, limited to Sundays and 3 Saturday tournament bookings. Continue with the current practice of not providing skate sharpening services inside the Township's owned and operated arenas. Not pursue the licensing of businesses as permitted under the Municipal Act 2001, specifically as it pertains to transient traders, hawkers, and peddlers. And 4, develop a vendor fee for 2018 for any business operating on Township property with the authorization of the Township on a seasonal or annual basis.
Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Mackay, seconded by Councillor McLaughlin. All those in favor? 9.3, Municipal Asset Management Program Application.
The Council of Township of Whitewater Region directs staff to complete an application under the Municipal Asset Management Program, MAMP, for data collection and reporting.
Are you a mover? Moved by Councillor McLaughlin, seconded by Councillor Regier. Okay, any questions? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. This does work really good when you've just discussed it 10 minutes ago. 9.4, Cobden Waste Water Treatment Plant update.
The Council of the Township of Whitewater Region accept the status report prepared by JP2G Consultants Inc. for the Cobden Wastewater Treatment Plant upgrades.
Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Regier, seconded by Councillor McLaughlin. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried. Notice of motion. Are there any notices of motion? Well, hearing none, we're moving on. Number 11, minutes, regular minutes.
The Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the regular council minutes of October 4th, 2017.
Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Mackay, seconded by Councillor Regier. Questions? All those in favor? Oh, you've got a question? Councillor McLaughlin has a question.
I'm just looking at the attendance, and I don't know. I recollect that Councillor, Jackson, I don't think was in attendance. Is that correct?
She attended, for the first part of the meeting.
Oh, yes, she did, yes. I'm sorry. I will rescind my my question. You're right.
All those in favor? Carried. (11)2, closed minutes. Recommendation that the Council of the Township of I'm going for it this time. Whitewater Region approve the closed council minutes of October 4th, 2017, understanding that they will remain confidential. Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Mackay, second by Councillor Regier. All those in favor? Carried. Correspondence. 12:1, Whitewater Bromley CHC letter of thanks. Letter. We don't need to read the letter. Everybody happy with the letter? Okay. Yeah, they're all for both for information. I mean, the county Emerald Ash Borer is obviously recommending that we burn the wood where you cut it. Yeah, we've been doing that for years here. So, confirming bylaw. October 18th, 2017 bylaw 17-10-1005 confirmatory recommendation. Be it resolved that bylaw 17-10-1005 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council at its meeting of October 18th, 2017 be taken as read and passed. Mover. Moved by Councillor Mackay, seconded by Reeve Miller. All those in favor? Carried. We are adjourned.